In a brief but fruitful life, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart composed over 800 works, including 41 symphonies, 22 operas and 38 concertos. One of the greatest composers in history. So why was he buried in a common grave with a bunch of, no disrespect intended, but nobodies? Wolfgang was born in Salzburg, Austria, January 17, 1756, to parents Leopold Mozart and Anna Maria Pertl. Leopold hailed from Augsburg, Germany, and he moved across to Salzburg, Austria in 1737 to study philosophy. But his parents had their hearts set on becoming a priest, but not for him. He fell out with them when he instead opted for a musical career as a composer, violinist and musical theorist, turning professional in 1740. It was 7 years later when he met and married Anna Maria from Salzburg. She'd come from a middle-class family, her father an administrator and said to have been a skilled musician. Later getting into debt, he died, leaving her family in poverty. Together, Leopold and Anna Maria wasted little time in producing 7 children. With low birth survival rates, however, 5 of them died in infancy. The 2 survivors, number 4, Maria Anna, nicknamed Nannerl, then 4 years later came her younger brother, number 7, Wolfgang Amadeus. It was then Leopold found his real calling as a music teacher of his 2 children, devoting himself to training them in keyboard, violin and other languages. Influencing their career path from toddlers and looking ahead, he'd hoped the 2 would join other gifted children, earning substantial fees performing for the upper class. They didn't disappoint. Starting piano lessons at age 7, Nannerl soon found herself being imitated by young Wolfgang, who at 3 was making rapid progress. By age 4 he was playing short pieces, and at 5 was composing. When he scribbled out a concerto in chalk on the kitchen floor, Leopold realised he had something special. By age 7, Wolfgang and Nannerl 11 had been prepared by Leopold to be shown to the world. He took the family on a lucrative and successful 3-year grand concert tour of Germany, Austria, Holland, England, Italy and France, displaying their talents as child prodigies. This was the first of several European journeys they were to make. Leopold described his son as the miracle which God let be born in Salzburg, and he saw it his duty to God to draw the miracle to the notice of the world, and of course make a few bucks in the process. Not necessarily in that order. At the tender age of 8, young Wolfgang penned his first symphony, and as a 16-year-old composed 9 symphonies, 5 divertimentos, 7 sonatas, 4 string quartets, and a duet for pianoforte. During his late teens and coming of age, Wolfgang increasingly felt the need to free himself of his father's grasp. Meanwhile, Leopold's anxieties about their future were reaching pathological levels. When Wolfgang attempted to court opera singer Aloysia Weber, Leopold took a dim view of the matter. Viewing the relationship as a potential threat to his control, he intervened. In an attempt to rein him in, he ordered Wolfgang to go to Paris and find your place amongst great people. Not trusting him to go alone, he made the ill-fated decision that his mother should tag along as chaperone. They reached Paris late in March 1778, and Mozart soon found work. His most important achievement there was Symphony K297. But by the time of its premiere on June the 18th, his mother had become seriously ill. She died on July the 3rd. Handling the situation with consideration, Wolfgang first wrote to his father of her grave illness. Then he asked a friend in Salzburg to break the news. Wolfgang had been very close to his mother and was devastated. When his father blamed him for her death, their relationship soured. Possibly out of unfound guilt, Leopold was able to manipulate his son into returning to Salzburg, agreeing to take up a safe job as court organist and a concertmaster for Archbishop Colloredo. Wolfgang soon became frustrated with the role. He saw as thwarting his ambitions as a composer. Angered by Colloredo's repeated attempts to stifle his advancement, he finally took a bold step and walked away. but not before a tirade of insults and abuse from Colorado and his father, who had sided with him. This was a major turning point for Mozart. The shackles were off. Free to tread his own path, he settled in Vienna as a freelance performer-composer. His talents caught the attention of Austrian Emperor Joseph II, who eventually supported his career substantially with commissions and a part-time position. In search of a partner, he failed to win the hand of his first choice, the now spoken-for Aloysia Weber, instead finding a partner in her younger sister, Constance. The two hit it off, and after some bitter exchanges with his still stewing father, he married Constance, and a reluctant official blessing arrived from his father, but only after the wedding. In Vienna, Mozart entered into what was to be the most fruitful and successful period of his life. He had once written to his father that Vienna was the land of the piano, and his greatest triumphs were there as a pianist-composer. At the time, Vienna's concert halls were in high demand, and any composer was fortunate to gain 1 or 2 performances a season. While this would put them in front of hundreds of people, it was never enough to support someone composing full-time. Not suiting Mozart's rapid output and constantly in demand, he overcame this by performing smaller concerts for private audiences by subscription. In salons, private rooms, apartments, restaurants and country estates. During a 5-week spell, he appeared in 22 concerts, his growing list of fans always eager to hear his latest offerings. By his late 20s, he'd settled into a regular routine, composing from 6 till 10 a.m, then giving lessons until 1 p.m. before retiring for lunch. If there was no concert to perform that evening, he'd continue composing from 5 till 9 p.m, then visit friends and socialise until 11. Arriving home, he'd sit at the piano, working till 1 in the morning. With an innovator's drive, he was always attempting to improve on his previous efforts. Unlike any other composer in musical history, he could write in all the musical genres of his day, and he excelled in them all. Mozart was familiar with the customs and fashions of his time, renowned for his ability to translate local feeling into his music. Deeply creative, he could compose in his head and transfer it to paper with little alteration. So rapid on output he was, legend has it he composed the overture to Don Giovanni the night before the performance, with the ink still wet on the paper when he handed it to the singers. In April 1787, Wolfgang got news that his father was gravely ill. A month later, Leopold died. Wolfgang, for whatever reason, chose not to attend the funeral. 4 years later, in 1791, his final year, aged 35, Wolfgang himself became ill during some weeks spent in Prague. But from his letters to Constance in October, he was in good spirits and optimistic about his future. He wrote a Masonic cantata for his lodge and directed a performance of it on November the 18th. He was also working steadily on a commissioned requiem. Later in November he was ill and confined to bed, with some apparent improvement on December the 3rd, but not sustained. The young maestro died on December the 5th. Severe miliary fever was the certified cause, then later rheumatic inflammatory fever was named. Other diagnoses were also given, and there's no evidence to support the tale that he was poisoned by Salieri, who was a colleague and a friend, but hardly a rival. Incredibly, the maestro, widely regarded as the greatest composer of the time, was buried in a multiple grave with other commoner locals. And the reason? It was standard practice at the time in Vienna for a person of his social and financial standing. A small group of friends, including Salieri, attended his funeral. During their 12 years together, Mozart and Constance had 6 children, with only 2 surviving. Carl Thomas, who lived to 74 years of age, became a gifted pianist before leaving his schooling. He went on to become a civil servant. Their youngest, Franz Xaver Wolfgang, was a composer, pianist and conductor. Living in the shadow of his father, he never really excelled. An introvert, he lacked his father's drive, ambition and output. He died of stomach cancer aged 53. With neither of the boys producing children, the Mozart bloodline ends there. Mozart's sister Nannerl lived out her life in Salzburg, marrying and having 3 children. She continued practicing the piano 3 hours daily and was a successful piano teacher. Living a frugal life, she died aged 78 with a small fortune. As a composer and musician, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was unstoppable. Stamping his mark in classical music history, he lives on.